We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Welcome once again to Pod Maverick. I'm Kirk Henderson, joined as always by Josh Bowe. We are editors over at MavsMoneyball.com, and this is our recap podcast. It is just before, it is literally midnight, according to my computer. That now makes it Friday, March 15th. The Dallas Mavericks played a late game against the Oklahoma City Thunder on national television, but they fell once again on national television, 126 to 119. Is that right? That seems right.
That's right.
That's right. And here we are. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm tired. That was an interesting game. We were talking right before we recorded that if you just kind of looked at the score and you knew the situation going into the game with no Luka Doncic, who has a sore left hamstring. Jason Kidd confirmed before the game it wasn't a strain. MRI came back clean, so it shouldn't be an extended absence. But when you knew he was out, which they pretty much announced he was out pretty early. Well, they didn't announce, but it came out that he was out pretty early because he didn't even travel, which makes sense because they're coming right back to Dallas, playing Sunday. So why risk it? Second night of back-to-back. So you consider that. You consider OKC, second night of a back-to-back. They're if they lose by 25, no one really blinks an eye. And then you look at the final score, and you're like, what a spirited effort. They're moral victory. And on one hand, yes. But on the other hand, there was some weird, dumb things that happened in this game that I think Mavs fans and I know we might get a little fired up about.
And
we start with the positives first.
Yeah, let's start with the positives.
Okay.
Number one, I've been doing this for like 7 or 8 games now. Kyrie Irving had a nice series last night, and tonight he really played a magnificent game. And for the Kyrie super fans of the world who were really frustrated that the Mavericks didn't get this one despite Kyrie's really excellent performance, I just want to welcome you all to the Luka Doncic experience of the last several years. It's nice here. The water is warm because a lot of Kyrie Irving's teammates just didn't fucking come through. But Kyrie played a really nice game, came out aggressive, but not forcing. Shots went down early, and the Thunder simply couldn't guard him. Pair him with Daniel Gafford, who was getting pretty relentlessly bullied in the first quarter and much of the first half at the rim, but made up for it with excellent rebounding and excellent play on the offensive end. He blew his streak. The 33 field goal streak ended almost immediately as Chet Holmgren fouled him on a putback. Like Barkley was screaming at halftime that it was a foul. And I want to circle back to the fouls. because the NBA game, this was a great example of sort of the NBA game being called much different these last 20 games than they were the first 30 to 45 games of the regular season. But those two guys were really a highlight for me. Tim Hardaway Jr. came out of retirement to play a basketball game. It was like a one last mission kind of thing for Tim Hardaway. His first quarter was so fucking bad that I wanted to scream, but that was in no small part to kind of who he was out on the floor with in the first quarter. He ended the first quarter with a lineup that featured him, Derek Lively, Dante Exum, and who was the last guy? Oh, and Derek Jones Jr. So he was one of two guys who should be asked to dribble the ball. And so he made some I'm Tim Hardaway decisions in the first quarter, but he rounded out the game, played pretty well for Tim. My measurements for Tim are probably like there's a grading curve, but I like to see how he played and really how he bounced back. But other than that, I am like just grossly disappointed in almost the entire roster. And I don't want to be that guy and be, I've really tried hard this season to not be overtly negative. But if you're mad about this game, you have a smorgasbord of options to who are you pissed at. I mean, I'm disappointed mostly in Dante Exum, who got stuck in quicksand very early on. I mean, his stat line is atrocious. 22 minutes, 2 from 8 from the floor, 2 assists, and 4 turnovers. And his turnovers were bad. Like, the Oklahoma City Thunder played a physical basketball game. And again, we'll talk about the refs a little bit later. He's a big physical guy. Fucking take it. Stop turning over the ball. Like, it's just, you got to adjust is the point. And he was really, we've been so full of praise for Dante Exum this year because he's fit that role perfectly. But what this just shows you is why role in the NBA matters. Certain guys, most guys, simply cannot fill into a different slot and play well. It's what makes a guy like Kyrie Irving, who can slide from being a second star, maybe even a third star against certain teams, to being a number one star and still play well in that role, being a star in their role. Dante Exum is not a guy who can play up. He proved that tonight. He's going to have to show me something, and maybe we won't have to deal with that ever again, but it's just very disappointing to see. What did you think?
Yeah, especially the 4 turnovers. Like, I'm not surprised that the scoring wasn't there necessarily, because I honestly kind of feel like his shooting has been ridiculous. Like, I mean, he's made almost half of his 3-pointers. Like, he's bound to have a come to Jesus moment with his shooting eventually. But yeah, the two assists, 4 turnovers is rough. I don't know if I don't think he's had a 4 turnover game. He's had one other 4 turnover game this season, which goes to show like how steady he is with the ball. And coincidentally, that game was against Minnesota, like the other really good Western Conference top of the West defensive team. So maybe there's something to that. But yeah, he just, I don't know what to say, because I don't want to kill the guy, because it's not his fault.
But yeah, he was the guy. Like, if you were to pick a player for me who I thought we would be talking about in a positive fashion if the Mavericks were,
he had to pop. He had to pop off. Yeah.
And not only did he not, he played so badly. Like, it's one thing if you come out there and you score 6 points on 4 of 7, you don't have any, you might have 2 turnovers, you might have 2 assists, but he was actively destructive to what the Dallas Mavericks were trying to do tonight. And that's the part that really frustrates me. So the next guy on our list, and then we'll take a short break, has to be PJ Washington, who they might need to get him in front of an optometrist, a sports psychologist, a witch doctor. Like, I don't know. Wow, what a bad game. I mean, and what's amazing, he played 36 minutes and was still a +1 despite being 1 for 11 from the floor. He made his first field goal, proceeded to miss his next 10. He was 0 for 7 from 3 with 5 rebounds. And also he added to the turnovers. So he was
and he also missed 4 free throws, 4 out of 8.
Yeah, including some ones that really could have kept the momentum going a certain way. I mean, it was one of the most, like, for a player in his role, he was the guy, and I see my man Henry saying he should have been benched, but we're going to keep going through, there was nobody else to play because these Mavericks are not that deep. Particularly we didn't even bring up the fact that Josh Green, like his ankle basically like left his body momentarily earlier in the game when he and we'll circle back to Josh Green in a second. But Washington was just so extraordinarily bad that I think had he played even a subpar game, the Mavericks might have won. But instead, he might have played his worst game with the Mavericks.
Yeah. I want to say it's bizarre, but I'm kind of looking at the numbers, and he's kind of doing what he's been doing. Obviously, this game is a negative outlier, but he was shooting 32% in Charlotte this season. He shot 34%, almost 35% the season before. His percentages have gone down almost since like he was 37 his rookie year, 38 from three, his second year. So it's just been slowly going down. And he's been awful from the corners even before he got to Dallas. Like, it's one of those things where you look at the talent, and the thing with PJ when I wrote like my trade evaluation was like the talent doesn't fit the production, because you just watch him move and his shot looks like, I think his form looks good.
Sure, but where
once the ball leaves
up,
his hand, I know where the ball goes is not good. But like if you just looked at him play, obviously tonight notwithstanding, it was very obvious that he had a really bad game tonight. But mostly if you just never looked at one of his box scores, you'd be like, wow, this is like a fourth best starter on a contender. Like, this guy he's a kind of that do it all forward, jack of all trades. Like, he's got a pretty good offensive game, and he's a pretty hell of a defender. And then you look at the box score, and he's 5 of 11, 4 of 12, 1 of 11 tonight, 7 of 16. Throws in a 7 to 12, 9 to 16 every now and but it's just like, it's just not there. And you want to be like, what's going on? And sometimes guys just are who they are. And he's been trending downward with his shooting for the last 3 seasons now. And it's only been, how many games it's been in Dallas. He's only been here since middle of February. So you can't write it off, and they've invested too much in him to write it off and just assume he can't get better. He is 25 years old. Mm-hmm. But right now it's, you want to say it's weird, but it's almost not weird because he's just continuing the season that he was having in Charlotte. Now you hope that he gets a Luka bump and playing with a better team and a better offense. But like I said, sometimes guys just kind of are who they are. It's so weird because when he got traded here, I thought that if he didn't work out here, it was going to be his defense, because he picked up a lot of bad habits in Charlotte, and his effort waned. And while no one ever heard from him, people that would know never heard that he was like a bad dude or, bad in the locker room. It just, his effort was very poor in Charlotte on the defensive end. And I was worried for a Mavericks team that can't seem to guard and give some poor efforts in the defensive end, that would just kind of manifest and he wouldn't be able to get out of his own way. His defense has been mostly great. I mean, he's had some bad moments because of his scheme, but like tonight, I thought his defense was still pretty good mostly. If I had to grade his defense overall from since he's been in Dallas, like I would give it an A. But his offense has just been so bad, and it's just
he's shooting 26% from 3 as a Maverick,
and I think he's like 5 of 26 from the corners.
Yeah,
the last I saw, like it's just it's just bad. And like you said, like you bench him, like they don't have forwards on the like, especially when Josh Green got hurt. The only other player that could play is Maxi Kleber, and we're going to get into him later. Like, are you going to play AJ Lawson over PJ Washington? I mean, I'm sure some fans would say yes, but that's not an expectation we can have. That's just not a believable thing. So it's just, he just has to be better on the offensive end. Like, he just has to make shots. Like, there's probably some things they could do a little bit better, but doesn't it feel like they're still getting him? Like, they're getting him on the move toward the rim. Like, he's getting decent looks in the paint. Like, he's shooting his floater pretty well. Like, it's just the threes. And I said that his 3-point shooting wouldn't matter when he traded here in terms of like, he doesn't need to be this 38, 39, 40% 3-point
I bet he's
shooter.
better off of pull up threes than he is catch and shoot threes, which is fucking amazing.
He can't be under 30. Like when I wrote that post, it was like he can be okay. He just can't be under 30.
Yeah, he can't be like, we're not going to guard this guy back.
Yeah. Because then that takes away the stuff that he's good at going toward the basket. So yeah, that was a rough game. And you know what's nuts is what those guys combined to go 3 of 19 from the floor, and the Mavericks still shot 51% as a team, 41% from 3. Like in a weird way, offense wasn't really their problem tonight. But we can talk about what was their problem more if you want to take a break soon. Sorry, just kind of rambled a long time there on PJ.
No, it's okay. And I'm noticing our comments are all about Josh, which could mean you, could also mean Josh Green. So I'm scanning through Twitter to see if like there's anything that I'm missing
about Josh Green.
About Josh Green,
they said his X-ray was negative, so they'll probably see tomorrow. But at least it wasn't like a when we first saw it, I thought like Achilles or ACL. So the fact that it was an ankle sprain, at least that's some good news.
Sure. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. If you guys could do me a favor and like the stream, obviously this late at night and after a loss, we're going to have fewer folks in here, but I would like it if you guys could do me that quick favor. Those of you who are here on YouTube, those of you who are listening or watching via Twitter, shout out. You can join us here if you would like to. I would appreciate that. While you're liking the stream, if you could consider subscribing, we're inching up in followers bit by bit. If you were listening on an audio stream, a podcast platform, please leave us a review. We have really nice reviews on Spotify. Really, I've not checked our Apple ones in some time just because people didn't like me a long time ago and those reviews hang out forever. All right, we're going to take a quick break to go to audio ads, and then Josh and I will be right back.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
So before we kind of go on, this is probably a hot take. I don't even know if I should say it out loud. So when Josh Green injured his ankle, my immediate reaction was, this is the most Josh Green injury I have ever seen. And that was before I saw the extent of the roll, the sprain. And then that was also before somebody in Mavs Moneyball Slack pointed out that the most Josh Green injury of all time would actually be Tommy John surgery for how he leads his arm into screens, which really made me laugh. The Josh Green of this all is going to be very interesting because the Mavericks had found 20 minutes apiece for basically him. Let's just kind of go through the guys. Him, Exum, Derek Jones Jr., and so Josh Green, Derek Jones Jr., Exum, those three guys, and then Hardaway. We're getting anywhere between like 15 and 25 minutes a game. And I thought that worked. I thought that sort of balance in different roles would allow Kid to kind of play with the sliders of who's playing well, more minutes some night for other guys, et cetera, et cetera. With Josh Green out, that then puts more strain on everyone else. And I think that's bad. It's very, Josh Green is a player who frustrates me to no end, but he had found a very useful just a useful role. And I'm,
and it felt like they were finally starting to get a rotation that felt sustainable and like they could work on some continuity. Like guys were kind of sliding into their slots that seemed to work well, and now they're going to have to mix it up a little bit again.
So then kind of going through just the list of guys that made us mad tonight. You have to go through and
time to talk about it.
Well, there's a lot of people.
Yeah.
I want to again, Jones was kind of meh in his 32 minutes, but nothing really to write home about. Lively only getting 14 minutes annoys me to no end. What are we doing here? But again, Gafford played 26 minutes, which is approaching a higher mark for him, which is nice. Jaden Hardy got 17 minutes tonight. Your takeaway of the Jaden Hardy experience, I think, tonight says a lot about how you think about basketball. And what I mean by that is he had 9 points. He had 5 assists. He had 3 turnovers. He had a steal. He also shot the ball 10 times in 17 minutes. I was really glad to see Hardy get in the game just because he's not gotten in the game. And at the start of the second quarter, he gave the Mavericks a boost. He really, really did. I was really pleased with his hustle and his energy. And then on offense, he plays like a child playing 2K where he thinks he can do shit he can't. He had an incredible and one finish on a straight line drive, but how many other bullshit shots he took tonight is just gonna kill me. He's got to know what he can do. When he catches the ball and shoots, it's great. When he catches the ball off a dribble handoff on the move, it's great. When he is dribbling, it fucking sucks. He doesn't have the quicks. He doesn't have the handles. I'm too mad at him for a guy who didn't actually contribute to the loss. It's just, I think after enough time watching him, I actually think he's capable of more, only he does the wrong things. And then Kid holds him to a higher standard than he holds the other guys. He just does, and that's frustrating.
Yeah. He's in a weird spot where he's been pretty much cut out of the rotation.
Yes.
So he only played tonight because Luka didn't play. Like if Luka was healthy,
he would have been out. Right.
So he's in a weird spot where he knows if he gets in the game and it's not garbage time, doesn't have a long leash and he's not going to get a long extended playing time. Like if he plays at all and it's not garbage time, he's probably playing 15, 20 minutes tops. And you could kind of feel him pressing when he gets into the game in terms of okay, I might not play again for 2 weeks. So
yep.
I'm going to get some shot, I'm going to get some shots up. I'm going to, try to make some passes. And to his credit, he did kind of settle down a little bit and had 5 assists, even though he had 3 turnovers. And he had a couple good moments in the fourth, which I also liked. I thought he started the fourth pretty well.
Yeah.
But again,
I like his defense. I like his hustle. It's the offensive decision-making I'm having a beef with.
Yeah. And how much of stuff. Yeah. And how much of that, and it's how do you fix that when he's barely playing? It's stuff that I feel like he can only fix if he plays, but also where does he play? And I know that everyone's going to yell Tim Hardaway Jr. and sure, but realistically, it's just if Josh Green's healthy. Now Josh Green being hurt, we'll see if Luka comes back against Denver. So this might take care of itself. But when everyone's healthy, they've just got so many Tim and Green and Exum. I know everyone will just say bench Tim and play Hardy, but that just feels so unrealistic in terms of what can happen. But it's just tough. I just don't know where he's going to get the minutes. And I feel like he needs the minutes to work through some of these issues because he gets in the game and he's just he's like, oh shit. All right. I gotta get a shot up. I gotta make this pass that maybe I can't make because I might not see the floor for the next 7 days. And that's a tough spot to be as a young player.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. I mean, one thing, and this will probably light the chat on fire, but this is just a fact. Hardaway is a bigger player and better athlete than Jaden Hardy. And that just makes a difference over the long haul. That said, neither of them are all that much of a hill I want to die on. It was just I was glad to see him play, but he gave as much as he gave. He took off as much as he gave. And that was just disappointing. I finished with a plus minus of 0. Pretty perfect.
You got the full Jaden Hardy experience in these 17 minutes, I think.
And then the last guy I think we talk about, and then we kind of move on to kind of schematic stuff, is the ballad of Maxi Kleber, the walking, shambling corpse of a basketball player who Jason Kidd continues to roll out there time and again for no fucking reason. His 3 points added. He now has 11 points in his last 142 minutes of basketball. Really, congratulations to the guy. He committed a horrible offensive foul on a late charge whenever the Mavericks actually had a bit of momentum trying to get back into the game. He gave up a big he because he can't rebound or box out. He along with the rest of the Mavericks gave up a big offensive board that basically, one of the things that sealed the game. Jason Kidd thinks he's out there with PJ to play defense at the 4-5, but I
theoretically it makes sense, but
yeah.
And they had some moments right after the trade deadline, but
and I think they'll have some moments moving forward. I actually wrote that because I'm like, Kidd rolls him out often enough that Maxey is gonna make him look good at some point, just by sheer fucking luck, not because I think Maxey can do anything anymore. It's just like a broken clock is right twice a day. That's the Maxey Kleber minutes.
That's exactly right. I think the thing with Maxey is the way he's being deployed is way too programmatic and not reactive to the flow of the individual game that you're in. Because I guarantee you, the coaches talked. I don't want to say guarantee. I'm going to speculate, but I'm going to assume that the coaches talked before this game. And when the Mavericks walloped the Thunder after the trade deadline by 35 points, they did that because they basically told their bigs, do not guard Josh Giddey and don't guard Lu Dort. And it was especially true for Giddey. And he missed a bunch of shots and didn't take shots. And the Mavericks kind of steamrolled. And they did the same thing tonight. Daniel Gafford was on Giddey when Giddey was on the floor, and Gafford was basically playing free safety. And it pretty much worked. Giddey was 2 of 7 from 3. So you take that shooting line. He did find his way to 18 points somehow.
Somehow it's because he was driving on everybody,
yeah,
and the Mavericks weren't actually committing to the game plan early on.
Right, yeah. Like you can't let that guy get to the rim if you're gonna deploy the strategy of we're gonna put our center on him and ignore him.
It was like Josh Giddey of all people has a gajillion points is one of the reasons why the Mavericks lost is killing.
Yeah, but he only played 22. Like it was working enough that the Thunder were like, okay, we got to get him off the floor. He only played 22 minutes. He didn't play most of the fourth. I don't know if he played any of the fourth. I think he played a little bit of the fourth, but he didn't play most of the fourth. He didn't play when it was coming down the stretch and the Mavericks still had a chance to win. And I feel like the coaches talked before the game and they were just pregame. It was probably like, okay, when Giddey's on the floor, we can have Gafford or Lively out there and they'll guard Giddey. When Giddey's off the floor, let's go to Maxey at the 5 and match their 5-out offense and yada, yada, yada. And you think about that and it's like, okay, that strategically makes sense if Maxey's playing well, and that's working, and PJ's playing well also. But like, you have to react to the game that's in front of you. You can't. It just felt like Giddey came off the floor in the fourth, and they were just like automatically, okay, Maxey at the 5, let's go to that. Yep. Despite the fact that Maxey was not having an impact on the game at any point whatsoever. Yeah. Like you just have to be able to it's just you have to be able to adjust a little bit. I know it's the regular season. I know that there's not a lot of time to practice. I know the scouting reports aren't there, but like you have eyes. You are watching the game that's unfolding in front of you. Maybe you just don't automatically go to that look that you talked about before the game because you talk with the 8 coaches that you have on the sideline and you're like, oh, hey, he's not giving it to us tonight. Like it's not his night. Gafford's Gafford's eating him up. Lively was having some good stretches as well. They literally won that last game because Gafford had a monster night in the paint. It was just really, and it's not really Maxey's fault. Like he's not paid a lot. He's paid like $11 million a year. He's not one of the highest paid players on the team. He's not counted on to be an all-star or one of the top 4 or 5 players on the team really. But they roll him out there like he needs to be, even when it's to his detriment. And it just makes him look bad. Makes the team look bad. They lose a game like this game, although it's more than the Maxey decision. And it's regular season, so I don't want to overreact too much, but just gives me pause because it's like you can't do this in a playoff series or you can't do this in a play-in game. If they're in the play-in, like you can't.
There's no fucking around.
You can't. Yeah, it's do or die. You have to be able to make these adjustments in the middle of the game, and they just didn't. And it was like, my God, like 21 minutes, 3 points, like 2 rebounds. He had a good block in the first half, but that's like it. Like, it's just, you've said this before, and I totally agree with you. Like, when he looks like he looked like tonight, and like he's looked the last like 2 weeks or so, or the most of March, yeah, Daniel Gafford was giving up some points when he was on the floor. It's a tough matchup for him in some respects.
He gave up a
the
ton of paint points in the first quarter, and yet the Mavericks still were down by the Mavericks they weren't down by 20.
Right. Like, yeah, like that's going to happen. He's going to have some bad moments when he's going against a 5-out team. But he had 19 and 50. Like, I'm not trying to be like a box score, ball don't stop guy, but like, good Lord, he had 19 and 15. Like, he at least did something to counteract what was going on in the floor. Like, Matt, where's the advantage with Maxey on the floor in a game like this game? I just don't see it. It's not good. It's just really, it's dumb. Like, I try not to get too worked up about it, but it just gives me concern if this team can't get out of the play-in, because they might lose one game and that's it.
Yeah. And, I ended up writing about Jason Kidd a little bit, and I talk about this on here. I try not to delve too deep into the Jason Kidd of it all, because it's not gonna matter. It doesn't really change anything. Our fans scream about it. There's fans that are really pro Kidd for whatever fucking bizarre reason. That's the position you decide to take as a human being. And then fans that want him to get fired. And to everyone, I'm just like, guys, Kidd is a fact of life. He's like a desk chair in your office. They're not throwing him out until the wheels fall off. Kidd is just gonna be with us. And I'll tell you, watching this game tonight, I found myself frustrated with him in just enough ways to where I think that he was not the difference in the game, but I wish he would have done some stuff differently. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Like the TNT announce crew was talking about the Thunder head coach and the way he was working the refs, the way he was making, like he had 2 great coaching challenges. Kidd is actually pretty good at coaching challenges, but it's just there were momentum stopping timeouts. There were actual just decisions made. And this was a game where Jason Kidd had his game plan, and you just talked about it. He stuck with it come hell or come high water. They had no adjustments. Now, when you lose Luka Doncic, I feel for you. I do.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big part of your game plan every game. So, but when you rolled that, and so that's part of it, but that's kind of a Kidd fact of life. That happens every game.
And what's so annoying, I'm sorry to interrupt your train of thought, but it's like taking Giddey off the floor is not like this unknowable chess move. Like, you have to anticipate that and be able to counter when your counter to the counter is not working. You know what I mean? Like,
I do know.
Like, it's just, it's not ridiculous that Giddey came off the floor and Maxey was playing a bad game. Like, those are not outlandish outlier scenarios, and you just have to be able to adjust.
There's 2 more elements that I want to talk about, and this first one I probably wouldn't have brought up just because it's a strategic decision that's easy for me to question after the fact. But he says, Ryan Parker shares the tweet. I think it was Grant Afseth who transcribed it. Thank you, Grant. Being able to switch, and this is with Kidd closing with PJ and Maxey. Being able to switch and try to stay out of the rotations. I thought in the second, when they made 3 or 4 threes, it put our bigs in rotation and we were just late. The Mavericks scheme right now results in a shit ton of open threes. It just does. Now, maybe somebody smarter than me will come and tell me about how that's a great tactical decision in the year 2024. It ain't. I'll tell you that much. You can make all the descriptors that you want, but the Mavericks are going to get put in rotation kind of period. And if your people who you are putting in the game so that you're trying to stay out of rotations are late, what the fuck? Like that, granted, that's not on him as a coach. That's on the players, but it's like, why are you doing that? It's a small thing. Probably wouldn't have really brought it up because
the Thunder had 14 corner threes tonight, attempts. They made 6 of them. So, it's like,
defend
you can get away with giving up above the break threes for sure. And that's like a defensive tactic but like you got to guard the corner. You got to guard the corners.
Yeah.
You got to guard the corners. And this is, the Bucks, his Bucks teams didn't guard corner threes.
It's not a good defensive strategy. It's just not. I'm sorry. Okay. But that's a choice. You commit to that choice. Fine. The only thing I would have liked him to do differently, and this is where I'll just get a blood in the water from people who are either pro or anti-Kidd that will either firmly agree with me or firmly disagree with me. The refereeing in this game was extreme. They allowed some extreme physicality. I rather liked it. I thought it was fun. I more of that, please. Frankly, I think you beat on Luka hard enough. I'll tell you how that's going to work out for you over a long game. It's not. Luka only gets stronger. But Daniel Gafford got destroyed going up for multiple shots and dunks and didn't get calls. We had multiple Mavericks go down hard on scramble plays. I just want to see him once in his life get a technical for his team. Even if people tell me I'm wrong on this. I'm sorry. If you have 20 games to play, you do it twice a season. That's a card you play to fire your team up. I bet he hasn't done it since. I bet he's not gotten a technical foul in a meaningful game, or he certainly hasn't been kicked out of a game since last December 2022. That's the last time he was kicked out of a game. Pretty sure about that. I just want a little fire. It's a game like tonight, a passionate, meaningful, physical game where seeing the guy with his hands in his pockets upsets me.
Yeah, and you know me, you know that the fan has kind of been beaten out of my soul a little bit. And even when I was a fan or more fanny, I was never a big refs guy. Even that my mentality, when Dante Exum was laying on the floor after he got hacked and then fell, and admittedly, he hit his head on the court. It was kind of a scary moment because he really,
and it was a foul.
Yeah, it was a foul. I think some people were like, "Oh, well, he just fell and hit his head on the court." Well, there was a foul before that.
Carson Wallace fouled him.
Yeah,
I mean, it's great that you don't call it. I mean, that's basketball.
Yeah,
but
and
a foul.
He gets fouled, and your player is laying there on the floor. Your team is guarding 4-on-5. They make a 3, and he literally is just like not doing anything. And I'm like, bro, one of your starters that you need is writhing in pain on the floor after getting fouled, and you're just like, all right, like nothing. Like there's just absolutely nothing. It drove me. I couldn't believe it. Like there's just gotta be something there. And this is where I try to play devil's advocate, and I know, like, it's not that he's not talking to refs. Like
he definitely talks to him.
Yeah, he's talking to him all game. And Brad Townsend of the Dallas Morning News had a clip of him like working the refs pretty hard during a timeout. But at this point, and he's been like this forever. Like he was like this in Brooklyn, he was like this in Milwaukee. Like it's just his temperament. He just doesn't do it. Like he just is not, and he didn't play like that either. He was a very intense player, but like a quietly intense, methodical, point guard. He
like
never really
sociopathic.
Yes, exactly. So like
scary.
At this point, when you look at his playing career and you look at his coaching career, like asking him to get fired up at this point, we're just barking up the wrong tree. Like he's just not going to do it because that's just not who he is. But that doesn't mean it can't be. It's frustrating because you would think if you want to be a coach in the NBA, you need a little bit of that. You don't need to be, throwing chairs on the court and all that. But like, there's got to be a balance.
When you're going up against the worst, like the reffing crew that has the most public fuckery in the 2023-24 season, this was the crew, guys, that missed that really horrendous Knicks Rockets call that they later apologized for after the game. I mean, depending on how into the league you are, there is a burgeoning movement based or backed by data that the NBA has quite literally made the call to referees that they are to allow more physicality. Like it is like when you see like Tom Haberstroh and Ethan Sherwood Strauss are sort of leading the charge on this between Tom's data and Ethan's talking to I'm talking to front office people off record. There's enough here to where the NBA has changed the way the game is played. Now, I honestly don't have a problem with it. The NFL does this shit all the time where it's like, if there's a ton of holding penalties, usually by year's end, you stop seeing them. So I don't really have a problem with the physicality. That's not the point. But if you can do something to influence a key game, like the Mavericks would have ended tonight in the 7th seed had they won. But They didn't. They lost by 7 in a
Now
game
they play
where
Denver.
now they play Denver, where they're probably going to lose to Denver too. And it's just, guys, what are you doing? This is a game of inches, and the Mavericks losing the margins in some really frustrating ways. Again, Kidd is like the 15th thing down my list. It's just, we've been talking about him, so we might as well go ahead.
Yeah, it's tough. It's just tough to watch in a game like this. And I know fans are going to be really pissed about the refs, and I'm not going to deny anyone that, because it was certainly, you watch what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was getting on one end of the floor, and
I don't understand his calls. I don't.
Yeah.
He gets like, he's a brilliant basketball player, and he gets some very obvious ones.
Yeah.
Like, I would say about 2/3 of his calls tonight I felt were like realistic calls, and then there are just times where I'm just like, what? Compared to what we saw on the other end.
Yeah. Funny enough, the Mavericks had more free throws in this game, and the Thunder committed more fouls, 24-20, which is kind of funny, a foul count. I wanted to get one thing. I'd kind of go back, not to circle back and beat a dead horse, but go back to Maxey. In the month of February, when he kind of started rounding into shape after he came back from that really long absence from the pinky toe dislocation. So in February, which was easily his best month that he's played this season, he hasn't played a lot of months, but it was easily the best stretch, included the 7-game win streak, 27.2 minutes per game, averaged 8.3 points, shooting 54-42 from the field. But the minutes, 27.2. He's, for a season, has never averaged more than 26.8. And if you go through his game logs, the most minutes he ever averages in a month is right around that 27, 28. But normally he's 24, 25. And I know that we're like picking nits, like, does 3 minutes per game really matter that much? But like, I don't know if it's a coincidence that he played, 27 minutes a game in February, and now he just looks like it's gone. And I think his body just can't, like, we talk about it all the time, like he needs to be like a 20 to 22 minute player during the regular season. And I know it wasn't all their fault. Like, Gafford got hurt, Gafford wasn't here. Lively was in and out of the lineup with some ankle sprains. So I know he kind of had to play, and he was playing well, but like, I feel like they kind of used him up. Like, they used him up in February. I don't know if he's going to come back from it, because ever since that hamstring surgery, like, whenever he plays extended minutes for like a 2-week stretch, he's just done. Like, he's absolutely done. And we'll see if he can bounce back. But like, I just wonder if they kind of cooked him in February because of the circumstances that they were in with the injuries they were dealing with.
Sure. Oh, is there anything else we missed?
I didn't shout out Kyrie Irving's game enough. You did at the beginning, but I just wanted to throw my 2 cents or my hat in the ring. Like, he was amazing. Like, this was really one of his best games of the season. I know he scored more points, but like, I think kind of his presence on the floor was felt in a way that isn't always felt, and that's not really his fault all the time. But like, he commanded this game from every minute he was on the floor, and he played 38 minutes. He kind of busted out of a shooting slump. Despite the fact that the defensive coverage was just all focused on him. I mean, he had a shot in the paint at the basket in the fourth quarter. That might be the most impressive non-dunk finish in the NBA.
Oh my God. I can't believe I didn't even talk about that. Like,
where he switched from right to left and banked it in. Like,
it looked like a video game glitch.
Yes. It was one of the best finishes in the paint I've seen all season. It was tremendous. So I know that there are people that get onto us for not shouting out when the Stars play well, because we kind of just like, well, yeah, they're the Stars, they should play well, and we focus on the other guys. But Kyrie was outstanding. He was great from opening tip to the final buzzer.
Woo! And what's so funny is his actual finishing at the rim is kind of garbo.
Yeah, because he's not
like garbage. It's just, he might be one of the best finishers of all time who doesn't have statistically good finishing.
Yeah, it's because he's got the Monte Ellis thing where he doesn't contort for fouls a lot. Like, when he goes to the rim, he's trying to make the shot, like, and not trying to get fouled, if that makes sense.
All right. So no game Friday, no game Saturday. No Sunday afternoon game.
Yep.
So that should
ABC
be fun.
game, so everyone will be watching, which we know how that usually goes.
That's right. I need to find time to watch the new season of Amazon show. What's wrong with me? Anyways, there's some good TV I need to watch
Fallout,
that I haven't
the
had the
Fallout
time.
show?
Oh,
Is that
God.
right?
Well, that's not until April, but there's
Oh.
Invincible. It's
Oh.
the Stephen Yeun voice one with J.K. Simmons, and it's an incredible comic. But it's just a great series. Really looking forward to actually spending time to watch that one. But what ends up happening is like I keep falling asleep on non-game nights. It's really bad. It's really bad.
Me too. Right there with
Everyone
you.
should watch Shogun if you haven't, though. That's probably the most preposterous show I've watched on television in some time. It's got great production value. It's based on a book. It's like 16th century Japan, which was closed off to everybody but the Portuguese. And an Englishman crashes on the island, like as they're trying to find it in the middle of a like almost civil war. It's a great show. It's a great show.
Yeah, we're gonna start that. Megan's out of town this weekend.
Megan will actually watch it. Yes, see, Josh doesn't watch TV, guys. I have to berate him.
Yes, sorry. And we're gonna watch. We've committed in the summer when we move in April. We are watching Andor. I've got it locked in.
2 years rating.
You beat me down. You couldn't get me to Ted Lasso, but you got me for Andor.
This one is more your vibe because it's filmed
Yeah,
as in television.
Yeah, so I can't wait.
Joe Biden says, God, movies and TV suck these days. That's amazing. All right. This has been fun. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, you guys. We'll be back. I'm not going to do a live show tonight. It's 1 in the morning, and there's not as many folks in here. I feel bad. My wife always she's like, why don't you do them? And I'm like, because like I got to get up and I have an Orange Theory class in the morning at like 9:45. I will die if I. So, all right, everybody be good. This has been Kirk and Josh with Pod Maverick. Thanks so much for hanging out. Go Mavs.